Okay, we have moves, which is what I was waiting for. We're going to bounce back and forth today between the various US Open schedules that are taking place. Welcome back to the stream. For those of you who are watching earlier in the week, International Master Kostya Kavitsky will be back. He'll be back tomorrow night, 7 p.m., along with Women's Grand Master Katerina Nemtsova. In the meantime, you've got me taking it home in the late night hour here in Philadelphia. Well, just outside Philadelphia. I'm in Cherry Hill, New Jersey. It's just after 10 o'clock, which means two things. The main event open, which is 9 days long, 1 round per day. They call it the traditional schedule, the classic US Open. Those players have been playing a little over 3 hours now. So the game we're looking at on our screen, Grandmaster John Michael Burke against Roman Kowalisko. That game is about 3 hours and 15 minutes old as of right now, 3 hours and 7 minutes old. Getting ahead of myself. And that also means that the 4-day schedule, where a bunch of really strong players, including a few grandmasters, the 4-day schedule has just kicked off their games as well, their round 4 games. So they have played 3 games already today at noon, 3 p.m., 7 p.m., and now just starting here 7 minutes ago at 10 p.m. They've already played 3 games, they're tired, it's late, and it just so happens that even though they're tired and it's late, we do have some really, really good matchups that should be very fun to follow. And the time control for this particular one is game 60. So not only should it be good to follow, we should see some action coming pretty quickly, but in addition to that, these players are going to have to fight because the 6-day tournament is loaded at the top. As you can see, some of the names who are in the 6-day tournament, we have 2018, I believe, US Open champion Timur Gareev. He played a Wonder Liang in 2018 in the final in Wisconsin. So we'll see. His game tonight looks like it hasn't gotten underway yet. We have very well-known grandmaster, should have GM right here, John Fedorovich. White against another well-known grandmaster who streams from time to time on Lichess as well, Var Akopian. So that should be a fun game to watch. What else we got? We've got a Wonder, as I mentioned, co-champion 2018, Wonder Liang, facing off with White and French against Arvind Kumar. And finally, we've got Grandmaster, new Grandmaster, Hans Niemann with White. Looks like we've got some kind of a Tarish against Dov Gorman. So these should be some really fun games to follow. You know, these players need the point. It's late, they're tired, they've already played 3 games today, but they need the full point because the 4-day continues tomorrow. Before it merges, it does not merge with the classical schedule until 7 p.m. tomorrow. These players have 2 more games at game 60 after tonight before they can finally link up and merge with the rest of the field. So every point is going to count. Every point is going to be really huge in this particular section. In a big open like the US Open, it really changes things, you know. If you were here watching some of the earlier games, you would have seen top-level GMs, you know, 25, 2600s, facing off against very low-rated opponents that they usually wouldn't have to face, you know, 14, 1600s. What does that mean? Well, that means that they're racking up points. They're racking up points right off the bat. So you need the full point. In large open events like this, you just have to chalk up wins. So even though we have some high-level matchups here, I fully expect they're going to be going for blood, and we should have some really fun games. I'm looking forward to it. So we'll take you home. I'm expecting this will go about an hour and a half, 2 hours while we follow along with the matches. We'll see. We'll see exactly how long these games take. I'm looking forward to checking out some good games. All right, let's get started. We'll start with the 4-day. We'll kind of bounce back and forth. I do want to see some of the actual open games. There's a couple of good ones there too. But this first game, man, honestly, it looks like something has gone wrong for Gorman already. So let's talk about why. There's a couple of issues here. So the bishop is hanging, of course, and you can't move it because we have like a big accident on c6 happens. So you have to defend it. And there's a couple of issues. So like, for example, let's look at a couple of ways to defend the bishop. So queen e7 kind of pops to mind. But then there's this move, bishop g5. And we have sort of a bit of a mild catastrophe already if we're black here, because you still can't move the bishop. The queen takes c6 threat, never went away. And white is threatening to simply capture this knight. So for example, if black, does something like this to get out of the fork, just simply take it. And the queen cannot take because you're hanging stuff. So you have to take with pawn, and the king side is ruined, the pawn structure is ruined, and still nothing has been done about this bishop, maybe even like rook c1 or something. So that's a problem. So what are some other options here for black? Well, there's really only two other moves, I guess three. Three other moves to defend the bishop. Going backwards, blocking your own bishop in is not really all that pleasant. But I honestly think, every one of these moves have a drawback. So for example, queen d6, that's just inviting free tempo. Tag the queen. Clearance move for rook c1, bringing the battery on the c file. I could be wrong, but this does not look very pleasant for black. So that's no good. Queen e7 we already talked about. And queen b6. It looks like he played queen b6 in the game. I didn't quite get to this one. I was going to show knight c3. And the problem here is that knight a4 is immediately introduced. So again, white develops with tempo. Not only is he bringing a piece out, but he's threatening to simply win the bishop on c5 outright thanks to this fork. So black is probably going to have to move that bishop already. I would say the opening, probably really black is not too pleased with how this opening went, because that bishop is retreating. And then the question becomes, let's just pick a square. I'm picking this square. That might be the move already played in the game. We'll get an update here in a second, just to hold the knight. But now the question becomes, I'm curious. I don't know if white really even wants to do this, but I'm curious if white can even play bishop e3. At first glance, it looks like a terrible blunder, but knight a4, hitting the queen. And can the queen stay connected to this pawn, or can the queen not stay connected to this pawn? I think the answer is it cannot. So what does that mean? That means bishop e3 is coming with tempo. The queen is going to have to go back. And yeah, opening didn't go well here for black, for Dov Gorman. I like Niemann's position already. So let's bounce around and see what else is going on. Goreev and Jacobson hasn't started yet. It's possible that, and right as I say that, I was going to say it's possible one of the players showed up late. We have some moves. We'll come back to that one. We've got the Fed against VAR. Okay. This was a French as well. Nothing too major to see here so far. Although the Fed is pausing and having a think after pawn a6. Should be pretty well known. A Wonder versus Arvind. We touched on this game briefly earlier. Okay. This might be kind of a fun one. So first of all, we have an advanced French. Let's see how we got here. We have an advanced French. That just means, so he goes for the Tarish, excuse me. Advanced French would be e5 immediately. Knight d2, okay. Bishop e7, knight f3. Now advancing the pawn when we grab some tempo. Okay, this is all pretty theoretical. Yeah, and these moves, a lot of times you'll see this move in the French, tend to be pretty fun variations, honestly. You can see g5 in a lot of scenarios. Sometimes when there's a pawn on f4, black will play g5, trying to entice white to take it, and weakening the e5 square. And sometimes, like, for example, in this game, black will just play g5 outright, just to get something going on the king side right away. So I think this should be a pretty fun game to watch. Knight b1, and this is an interesting move. Black just says, go ahead and take it. I'm curious. I really wonder, this looks like a a position that I'm not too familiar with. I'm going to pull up, I'm going to cheat a little bit, and I'm going to open the database and see if this position has been played before. After h5. No, h5 has not been played. This position has been seen several times, with knight retreating to b1. So knight b1 might look like a weird move. Let's just talk about that for a minute. The idea is that white is basically asking black right away, what do you want to do with your pawn? Do you want to advance it? Do you want to protect it? Do you want to let me take it? What do you want to do with your pawn? And black has, you know, I would think that g4 would be an interesting move. You know, you're removing the defender here. But black plays this move h5, which according to the database I'm looking at has not been played before. And I'm trying really hard to figure out why that is. Like, maybe g4 is just so attractive that you just want to do it. Now, there is a point here. The point is that this pawn is actually not hanging on d4. It looks like you're just going to take that pawn, but, well, you can. You can take it, but you have to keep in mind that this pawn is equally hanging. So it's not like a 100% free pawn, let's say. But none of this happened. Black played this really interesting move, h5, which has not yet been played. And it looks like a wonder already answered bishop e3. So basically, now if he goes g4, d4 pawn is defended, don't even have to think about that. Perhaps more importantly, if he goes g4 now, you could also play knight d2 without blocking that bishop in, so you don't have to put your knight on the e1 square. h5 is just a really unusual move. I haven't seen that move before, and I'm not sure what's the idea. I wonder if it was preparation. I noticed that Kumar has only used about 5 minutes, so we'll come back and check on that. Yeah, Neiman game. Give it a little refresh here, make sure we've got the right position in all the games. Neiman game has progressed, and I'm going to double check on that. So what's up? Are people awake? Is this just too late? Neo-realism. Love the French is fashionable again. I have a feeling I may know who that is. Neo-realizer. Yeah, the French is fashionable. One of my favorite players to look at his French games is probably Morozevich. Hope I'm pronouncing that properly. But yeah, the French is the thing. You can play the French. I'm quickly checking in just to make sure we have the correct position, because the game I'm most interested in is, yeah, so let's go back here. Knight c3 is the game position. We'll delete these other moves. And Gorman is having to think, you know, probably as he should, because this is kind of like a thing. This is kind of like a thing. Pie Man, you could play the French, but if you like light squared bishops, you can play the Caro. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, this is true. This is true. Can I bring up, I wonder, is it going to let me bring an analysis board? Oh, that is so cool. Editor, starting position. So let's see what, let's take a look at what Pie Man is talking about. So as many players know, one of the potential drawbacks of the French, like if you play, this is classic advanced French, is that this bishop very oftentimes can get buried back here. So the idea of the Caro is, it's kind of interesting. Well, not the main idea, but one of the ideas, is that in the same structure, if white advances the pawn, you get to bring that bishop out. And then later you can play e6, and sometimes you just get to play it like a good French. I mean, of course, white doesn't have to play this way, but like you can just play c5 at some juncture, and your bishop is no longer back here, it's out here. And if you compare that to the French exact same position, the bishop is buried at home. I've seen some really weird ideas in the French. You know, I've seen moves like, I'm trying to remember if it's right now or like, I've seen moves like b6 and bishop a6 at times. I think you play it right away. And the point is that if white just plays like normal French ideas, there's this really important idea here, queen d7, just to cover this diagonal. And you just want to go bishop a6 and trade that white square bishop off immediately. It's very goofy, but you know, it's just a way to get rid of that French bishop, if you will. But yeah, I have to say, like, and this is, I think, good advice that I would give my students even too. You know, like, there are common things that you will hear about openings, but you should explore them and see how you like them for yourself. You know, this French bishop, a lot of times can be an interesting piece. Here's another line I'll just quickly show. Okay, I have to like remember theory. It's like way too late at night to actually remember theory. So hold on. I think it's here. A3. And now C4, if I'm remembering this correctly. And one of the ideas, sometimes this bishop will always go here, and then sometimes it even ends up like way over here. So you know, there's always things you can do with your pieces. Even pieces that look bad don't always stay bad. All right, we'll leave this chapter open as an analysis chapter. Let's call it analysis chapter. Cool. All right, let's go back to the games. Yeah, so Wonder versus Arvin. This is a really strange French. This move h5 just really sticks out to me. I'm going to see if we have the correct game position. Yeah, no, bishop e3 was last move played. So I mean, that's kind of weird, right? Like, so let's look at what happened here from like a practical point of view. This probably was not preparation because black plays h5, a move that I don't have in the database. White goes bishop e3, and then already black is using 10 minutes and counting. So, you know, I sort of suspect like maybe he got his lines mixed up. Maybe his hand just like did some things that his brain didn't want it to do. I'm not sure. Akash, best tournament of the year, much FOMO, new age theory maybe. Yeah, h5, he's theory crafting, right? That's what we call it, theory crafting. What would be the most fun game to theory craft for? Chess is kind of fun. The problem with chess is there's like, you know, there's computers and there's grandmasters, but like, you know, like what about like Risk? Would Risk be a fun game to theory craft for? Like what territories and what continents could you control? I don't know. h5, just a weird move, and even stranger. So he plays h5 very quickly, about 2.5, 3 minutes thought, and then he goes into the tank for 11 minutes and counting after just bishop e3. Perhaps black just got a little overzealous here. You know, there's like part of the problems are you can't go queen b6 anymore. I mean, you could, but this pawn would be able to be taken, so it would be two. Maybe queen b6 is worth thinking about here. But I mean, if you know, if we're shifting gears, it's actually not a terrible idea if black can pull it off. I just don't think he has time. Like if black can actually execute some kind of queenside castle, then this idea is very interesting because, you know, white, a lot of times in these positions, so let's go look at that exact same analysis position I was showing, like here. So I'll just play this a little further so you can see, and then we're gonna do a compare and contrast. Do you ever have to write like a compare and contrast paper, like way back in the day? I hated those, but we're gonna do a compare and contrast because, just to like prove a point. I don't even know the theory here. We'll just make a move. I think you're supposed to go knight a5, but whatever. So sort of the point of this position, if I make enough moves, I don't know, do you keep going with this knight or do you castle? I'm just going to get to a point where I can prove a point. So forgive me if I'm making like really terrible moves here. But sort of the point of this position is that at some juncture, black wants to get out of the way of his own pawns and his own pieces, and black actually wants to kind of like play over here a little bit. And a lot of times, white is the one who wants to sometimes push and open things on this side of the board. It's kind of counterintuitive because it's a case where you're castled on opposite sides. So it's a little counterintuitive to actually push pawns pawns and make plays and go for things in front of your own king. But a lot of times that's how the play works. So now let's compare and contrast. So we go back to this game. And what I'm thinking is, like, if black can execute that similar idea, you know, you can play c4, you can try to come over here, then maybe this is actually not bad for black because he's slowing down a little bit of what white wants to do over here. He's gained some space. But I feel like that somehow black is not going to have anywhere near the time that he needs to pull all that off. Because you still have, like, you have at least one, knight has to go somewhere, 2, bishop goes 3, castles 4. At least 4 moves. Probably you need to include c4. Also, white has not moved the a pawn to a3, so this is not really like a totally analogous position. But, there's always a but. One of the ideas is that I think, I don't know, if black can somehow manage to find a way to vacate the center with his king, then maybe this can be useful. Although honestly, to me, it looks very goofy. Which is probably why it's a theoretical novelty. And also probably why he spent so much time. 14 minutes and counting, and he takes. When you're behind in development, you know, one of the things I always tell students, when you're behind in development, don't open lines. Keep lines closed and try to catch up in development, and then look to initiate your active play. So actually, I really dislike this move. 14-minute think to open lines. And he's opening more lines. Oh my gosh. Okay, I think this is not going to go particularly well for black, to be honest. I don't know that I would see this check. I don't know that I would play this check right away. But it exists. Actually, can you just check and take the pawn and go like knight e5? I mean, this is looking really bad. I think black's in trouble. Let's check out the Fed versus VAR. What happened here? We'll come back to that game. I think that's going to be a very quick finish there. Okay. This is a pretty standard position, I think. Yeah, okay. So yeah, obviously this is like a completely different version of French, right? We don't have the closed center, we don't have the advanced e5 pawn. White just has an open center and he's looking for piece play. Probably pretty fast piece play. Yep, there goes the knight. Bishop e7. And here we are in the game. Not much happening yet, but I wonder about a move like bishop f4 here. You know, you can always play rook d1. But queen c7 looks like actually a pretty comfortable square. So maybe I just want to like take that away first. So let's see. Let's see what happens. Yeah, bishop e7 last move. Okay. Okay. Should be fun. F6 makes me gag. Oh yeah, there's no Phil Jackson command, Akash, on US Chess, unfortunately. Akash, did you see the power money moves that the Bulls made this week? So I'm a huge Chicago Bulls fan. I'm sorry, I know you guys are here for chess, but like when your hometown team does you a solid and signs some good players, you know, you got to talk about it a little bit. And I'm very intrigued by the Lonzo Ball move. Because he can like hit 3-pointers now. I don't know how I feel about the DeRozan move though. I don't know why they felt the need to give up a bunch of picks to make that happen. I don't know if anybody's an NBA fan. You know, you gotta rep whatever the kids say these days. I don't even know what kids say these days, and that's bad because I have 4 of them, so I feel like I should know. Yeah, f6 is an unfortunate move. What was it? I think Fabiano Caruana said something like his coach told him to never move your f-pawn. I don't know if I might be like really horribly misquoting or misattributing that. And then there was a bunch of stuff in chat earlier in the week about how Feingold said something very similar. So chat, maybe you can help me out there. I'm gonna pause the text. Yeah, I have lots of energy, even though it's about 10:40 on the East Coast here. I had some boba tea earlier that was really good, and I think it probably had a lot of caffeine in it. So I'm ready to go. I'm ready to see these games. Yeah, Neiman Gorman really. Okay, let's see how we got here, and then we can talk about it. Yeah, so like already in this position, I like white quite a bit. So just to remind you how we got here, right? There was development with tempo, and black just had to keep pairing these threats. Like white just kept the initiative. And actually, this is a good lesson for all of you kiddies out there who are awake at 10:40 Eastern time watching chess. You want to always be looking for ways to keep the initiative. So that's why the first move that caught my eye was bishop e3, because you're just continuing the initiative. You're making black respond to you. But very nice grandmasterly move here by Hans Niemann. He says, okay, yes, I know what all the kiddies should do, which is you should always keep initiative. And he plays e4, which is, of course, keeping initiative because he's threatening to just take the pawn. Not only take the pawn, but like hoping maybe for some action on this diagonal. And he's sort of asking black, like, what are you going to do? And it's not so easy to deal with this move. You might think you could go past with d4. But already, like, I think white would probably be thinking about a move like e5. Just because, I mean, I don't know if white would play e5, but I'll just show some ideas. Bishop takes rook e1. I call the e-file the highway of doom. And we have to keep in mind c6 pawn is also hanging. And c6 pawn is also pinned. So like some move like queen c7 would be met with just like absolute disaster. This is what I love to do with a chess stream, is just show like all these ridiculous tactics. So you can see the why and like what's happening behind the moves. Show ridiculous tactics and talk about the NBA. That's what I do on chess streams. What time control are these schedules playing? Okay. All right, so let's go through the chat. There's a lot of good questions out there. Feingold famously tells beginners never play f6. Feingold is correct. Of course, the one exception to that rule is if you are trying to play one of these really cool openings. I don't know if you guys know this one. Oh, I can't go to h4 here, so I can't even demonstrate it. Hold on. We got to go back. We got to let the queen go to h4. So if you're trying to play this opening, then you should play f3. But this is a really ridiculous opening that I believe Carlsen has played in Blitz a few times as a joke, so I don't recommend it. All right, what else is going on in the chat? Hold on, let's get back to the game so we can see. So we were talking about e4 with initiative, but a lot of people said stuff. Yeah, the refutation of that opening, I just showed it. So if you were watching, now you know. Okay, what time control are these schedules? The 4-day. The reason I'm streaming the 4-day is because I think we're going to have some really interesting games tonight, because it's game 60. It's game 60, the players are tired, and they have to get full points, because tomorrow they're not going to be doing themselves any favors if they come out with 3.5 at the top. If they come out with 4, they're going to be in an excellent position. So the 6-day and the 9-day are both playing the regular time control, which I think is like game 90 plus 30, and then at move 40 you get another 30 minutes. Plus 30-second increment again. And the 4-day schedule is playing game 60 tonight. So they played game 60, 12 p.m., 3 p.m., 7 p.m., and 10 p.m. Oh, there you go. Thanks, Chris. This is why you don't do it off the top of your head, guys. It's not 40 and 90, it's 40 and 100, which is my bet. Yeah, so the 4-day is playing game 60 all day today, and then again tomorrow at 12 p.m. and 3 p.m., and then they finally combine with the normal time control schedule, the quote-unquote traditional schedule at 7 p.m. tomorrow. Actually, I have to say, I've only played in one US Open ever. I really liked it, and if you have never done it, I would really recommend playing the traditional schedule, because it's only one game a day. So it has this very like almost European feel to it, where you just like chill and hang out, and there's side events, you can play quads, you can do this, you can do that. And I'm not just saying this because like, I organize it as part of my job and I do things for the US Open. I'm telling you this before I had this job. I played the US Open in 2016, and I really had a good time. You can play the Bug House tournament, you can play the Game 15 tournament, you can play the Blitz tournament. 2 years ago, the last time we had this over the board, Akash, I gotta tell you, remind me to talk about the 5 games in 1 day comment. 2 years ago, the last time we had this event over the board, we didn't have 2020 US Open. It had run for 120 consecutive years before that, I believe. But 2 years ago, we had this over the board in Orlando. And after the final round, I just hung out playing Blitz with like a bunch of other masters in the lobby. And it was so much fun. I think like Sunil Weeramantra, if you guys know him, Sunil and I played about 15 games of Blitz in the hotel lobby after round 9 of the Open, along with a few other players who were there. It's just kind of like a festival atmosphere. It's really fun. So if you ever have a chance to make a US Open, and I'm not, this is full disclosure, I work for US Chess, but this is me saying this as like a chess fan and like somebody who enjoys the tournament atmosphere. The US Open has a really cool tournament atmosphere, and I highly recommend you check it out. So Akash, yeah, 5 games in 1 day, but get this, okay? This is even the crazier part. There's also quads going on. So I know somebody who like is playing every day. You can play a quad and then go play the traditional Open. So every day he's been here, he's played a full quad. So like 3-game quad, game 60, game 30, depending on the day. Then he rests for like an hour or 2, and then he goes and plays his traditional scheduled US Open game. And he's done that like 4 days in a row. I wish I had like the energy and motivation to do that, right? All right, so let's get caught up. So E4, keeping initiative. And yeah, this is actually really common. So another good lesson for all you kiddies out there who are awake at 10:46 p.m. Eastern time watching chess. This is a really good lesson. When your opponent has a lot of initiative, if you keep trying to just roll with the punches and answer that initiative, a lot of time you just get punched off the board. So at some point you just have to say, okay, enough is enough. So in this case, it's a pawn. I'm going to sacrifice a pawn. Go ahead, take it. You can have my pawn. But it's only a pawn. And now, at least, like, now I can try to get some initiative back, right? So I can try to, all right, you can't develop your bishop right away because you hang your pawn, right? This bishop is unprotected. It's going to be the target of an attack at some point, This bishop here I can develop with tempo. So to collect that pawn, White had to give up a significant chunk of his initiative. Even though he got, you might say, well, hold on, he got to threaten the rook when he took the pawn. True, but just like, we're going to see here. Yeah, actually, so White says, go ahead, take the pawn. I'll grab that guy at the end, I'll have a passed pawn and ram it down your throat. Black says, no, look at this battle for initiative, right? Every move, tempo, tempo. Tempo. He's eyeing this bishop here. I believe he's threatening bishop f7 check. So it has to deal with that. Tempo. Every move, right? This is what we mean by fighting for the initiative. It's a cool game. Pyman. Yeah, I mean, Pyman, so let me ask you, are you, you must be like one of the pandemic chess fans then? You've just played like strictly online? 100% on US Open being a great experience. I've played 9-day and 6-day, both are amazing. Yeah, I agree, Akash. If you ever have a chance to check out a US Open, like if it comes to a city near you, next year we're in California. I'm looking forward to that. I'm hoping I can go take long walks on the beach and candlelit dinners. Yeah. If you ever have a chance, check it out. It's really cool. It's really cool. All right, what's up? What's going on? So tempo, 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 initiative, initiative. We're fighting for all that good stuff. Rook a b1. Hans just says, I have an extra pawn. I'm going to keep it. Bishop g4. Look at this, guys. Like, I mean, every single move, right? Every single move is a threat. Threat, threat. We already talked about that one. Threat, threat. Actually, I would consider this a threat, basically saying like, your bishop is stuck, and then White says, nope, threat, bigger threat. One of the best lectures I ever watched actually was also at a US Open. It was that same 2019 US Open, if I remember correctly. It might have been 2018. Grandmaster Alex Shabalov gave a lecture, and he basically said, like, when a beginner is threatened or is attacked by a piece, the first thing to think of is how to defend that threat. And he says, but when a strong player is under attack, the first thing they think of is, can I ignore that attack? I think that was a really good quote, a really good comment. Threat, like every move is a threat. Threat, bishop takes f7 and discovery. Threat, like look at this huge fight for initiative. This is a really cool game. I mean, okay, white is just much better because he has an extra pawn, and black, I think, mishandled the opening, but just a really cool game. Just constant threats. And yeah, h5. I guess Gorman is maybe like getting a little antsy here. He feels like, okay, if I just sit here, these pawns are going to roll me. So I got to get some action going on the king side. This should be a fun one to watch. Is the A Wonder game over yet, I wonder? I wonder if A Wonder has finished the game. Yeah, so remember where we left off here. He played f6, and everybody in the chat was like, oh no, oh no. And A Wonder's just like, okay, boom. Yeah, that's a nice move. The point is, I'll just show quickly, if you take, then there's queen f3 check. So earlier I was saying I didn't know if I would play this check. That's because I wasn't calculating. The simple rule is, like, you calculate it. If there's a concrete reason to play the check, you do it. If you can't come up with a concrete reason to play the check, then you should just keep it in reserve. So A Wonder did exactly what he should do, which is he found a concrete reason to play the check, which is this really nice move, knight takes g5. And Kumar is in like serious trouble already. And just now we go back and look at this move h5, especially in context with pawn f6. The plan just doesn't go together. So this was an opening experiment gone horribly wrong. Played for 4 years and never OTB. I really want to, though. I'm also Canadian. First of all, hey there. How you doing, mate? Yeah, mate's not a Canadian thing, is it? But, you know, that's all right. In all seriousness, congrats on being Canadian. I think it's pretty cool. I personally kind of want to be a Canadian because Canada seems like a nice place. Everybody's friendly. I know that there's a cool place called, like, Toronto Pub Chess, so I don't know if you're near Toronto. But in non-COVID times, I hear that that's a pretty chill place to go. No pun intended on how Canada is cold. CFC not as good as USCF. Yeah, I mean, well, we're just a much bigger country, right? So we have a much larger federation. Wow, look at this. This is interesting. So this is interesting. I thought A Wonder was just going to play queen f3 check. And I think he has to just shed the piece back. I didn't see a good... So he plays bishop h5, which is very surprising to me. I didn't see a good answer to queen f3 check. Let's see, maybe the king just hides out? Maybe the king just hides out and everything is fine. But even like, even just like a move like, I mean, even now, just take the pawn. I mean, I guess he can defend. Yeah, maybe he's surviving this. Just looks really, really gross. Just looks really gross. Maybe he survives. But now we know what A Wonder's threat is, okay? So now the point is, now if you take that pawn, same variation. So he goes bishop takes pawn. Oops, sorry, I messed up my board here. Hold on. So now we know the threat is queen f3 check, king g7, queen check, king up, and then queen will politely go to g6 and announce checkmate. So that's his threat. And you might say, well, he's down a whole piece, but I would say, is he down a piece or is he up like all this material? Because not only is that not in the game, okay, I know this is not in the game, but I mean, this can just go here and the rook can find a good square. It's very hard to imagine a role for these pieces at the moment. So this looks no bueno. Is Ray playing in the USC? Ray Charles? Ray Allen, former Miami Heat? Which Ray? Ray Ray? Little Ray Ray? Which Ray? I'm assuming you mean Robson, but I did not see Ray on the pre-entry list, but I haven't looked. He might have joined the 4-day. Let's see, I think we still have our command set up. Yeah, there you go. So you can click there and you can look at the pre-entry list, and that will tell you if Ray is playing or not. No problem. I think you are a soccer fan, which is really cool. I love soccer too. I'm just guessing. All right, let's go. Let's see what Timur's up to. What did Timur do? Okay. Okay. Wow. Okay. Quick tactic check. If you take this, you have a problem. You cannot go knight c6 because that pawn moved. So he just castles, and now Timur defends the pawn, develops his queen. I like that. Okay. Okay. Yeah, so I mean, it's never very pleasant for black when your c pawn is going to be disconnected from this. It's like almost like it's artificially isolated because whenever this moves, we'll just capture it en passant, or capture it directly if it goes to c6. Boo Arsenal. Bird IA. Who's your favorite EPL team? I constantly hope people on Twitch don't notice my username. You could also pick a different username. Think black's planning to put a piece on c5 and push c6 later behind the piece. Yeah, I mean, it looks like he does in the game, actually. So let's just see. This is very possible. Even then, so we'll just answer your question because it happens. Even here, if you ever push that pawn, I'm just going to take it. And this becomes isolated. And not only does this become isolated, but it's also very important to understand, like, changes to the pawn structure are permanent. Well, not permanent, but like they last a while. They're considered structural changes. And if you allow that, so like let's say he does it right now. Not only do we have an isolated pawn here, but we have another bad pawn here, a backwards pawn. So it's true white also has an isolated pawn, but I think black's pawn structure is much weaker. White actually wouldn't even have to take right away. Like he could just allow black to take as well, and then take when he feels like it. Yeah, it feels like queen e7 was an inaccuracy too, especially if he's just going to go queen b7. So Timur, I like Timur's position here. He has like this annoyance on black's queen side. He's got a bishop that's probably going to look really nice in a couple moves. I mean, I would expect like even just knight f5 straight away. Timur's looking good. What about the two GMs battle? Let's see the two GMs battle. How do we get here? Okay. I think we saw this. I don't know. We didn't see this far, did we? Yeah, interesting that he just takes straight away. So, okay. Yeah. And when your opponent has the bishop pair, it's very often a good idea to just trade one of the bishops. This move also opens up rook d1. So I like what he did here. In fact, I might have even considered like putting a rook on d1 right away. Maybe the a rook. But I like what he did here. Okay, what's going on in the chat? West Ham, come on, you Irons. Okay. Boo Arsenal. Yeah, so when I was in college is when I started watching the EPL. Like, I didn't even know it existed before then. But I got Fox Soccer Channel just randomly with whatever package my roommates and I bought on the TV. And I started watching it, and for whatever reason, all the EPL games that they showed at that time, and this was like early 2000s, it felt like 90% of them were Liverpool games. So I sort of became a Liverpool fan by default. But I'm also, my major was English literature. And black's not winning b2. Yeah, I don't think so. I don't think he can win b2 here. We'll talk about that. I'm also an English lit degree. That was what my degree was in. So I have a special place in my heart for the Tottenham Hotspur because I really like the character Hotspur from the Shakespearean play Where He Can Be Found. So the literature fan in me really appreciates their team name. Okay, no, he cannot win the b2 pawn, so let's answer that question. If he tried to win b2, I think this check is very annoying. You can't block because I take the rook, so that means you're not castling. And White's initiative here, I think, is easily worth the pawn and then some. So he can win b2 if he wants, but initiative, I think, is more important. He can win b2 at the cost of castling and the open file. I remember reading somewhere once that, like, one positional thing, so like if you control an open file and your opponent doesn't, or if your king is safe and the opponent's king is not as safe, you can evaluate that as like between 0.6 and 0.8. I don't know if that's true. But if you think about it in this context, so you captured 1 point, but you had to lose castling rights and lose the open file. So you lost maybe 0.6 to 0.8 on both of those. So that's like 1.2 to 1.6 in positional compensation that you lost. It's a good way to think about, like, should I grab that pawn or not? Especially when you're not castled, should I grab that pawn or not? A lot of times the answer is no. At US Chess, that's a shocking piece of information about Tottenham being because of Hotspur. Tottenham. Is this true? We need confirmation from an official Brit. I know that we have at least one official Brit in the channel. Can Tottenham fans read or write? Yes or no? Yeah, I don't think this pawn's going to necessarily drop. He has too many, like, for example, let me try to think of a way where we could. Whatever I do not want to defend the pawn. Remember what I just said, right? Like, strong players don't think, oh, I'm threatened, how can I defend it? Strong players think, can I ignore it? So, like, okay, here just, I would be shocked if White did this, but just as an example. Go ahead, take my rook. Just as an example. I don't think White's actually going to play knight d2, but this is an example to show like how utterly unconcerned White is with guarding that pawn. Now, could I see White trying something fancy? You know, I don't know, something like that. The idea is just to say I have a passed pawn if you don't take me. I have a passed pawn if you do take me. And if you take me twice, I'm chasing your queen around. And then maybe chasing your bishop around. Maybe White could try something fancy like that. We'll come back and see what he does. But whatever he does, I would be very surprised if he actually takes a moment to guard that pawn. That would surprise me. And yeah, here's even another option, right? Like not defending the pawn, just saying, I'm not going to defend it, but you can't take it. And maybe this knight, if black does not capture the knight, so like if black castles, maybe the knight goes to c4, rook comes to the center, pawn goes to b3, and it's very nice and solid over there. Everything people say detrimental about Spurs fans is true, obviously. Yes, it was. James Wynn. Show the opening real quick. Yes, it was. There you go. Yeah, he's not worried about this pawn, so probably wisely so. Okay, here's the actual US Open. So this is the classical schedule. We have a couple of interesting games there. Like this one where Grandmaster Benjamin Gladura is down to 16 seconds. Make a move, Vichy. Make a move. You guys know the Make a Move Vichy video that I'm talking about? If you don't, I'll put it in the chat. If you haven't seen it, sometime later, just look at, just YouTube search or Google search, make a move Vishy chess. Great video. Great moment, I guess would be the right way to put it. Okay, what's the idea here? He's giving him his knight. Did he blunder this knight because he only had 15 seconds on the clock? Why can we not take? Let's try to figure this out. Okay, if we take, we take. Queen goes, even if queen guards the bishop, we take the bishop, rook takes, queen takes, and then we take the rook here. So maybe that's his idea. If take, we'd simply capture, and we're going to take this bishop on d8, even if his queen keeps guarding it, because at the end of all the shenanigans, we're going to capture this rook here. But is there a knight g5 intermezzo? So let's calculate that. So take, take, knight g5 intermezzo, guarding the rook, hitting the queen with check. Rook takes queen, knight takes queen check, pawn takes, hitting this rook though. And then the rook is under attack, and the bishop is under attack. That's a cool variation. So I will show that variation. So black does not take this knight. It looks like this knight is hanging. But the first variation I was showing is this. It's an overworked piece. That rook was guarding two things. And white recaptures everything at the end and is much better. And then the second variation, I thought, well, what about this intermezzo in between move, right? So I'm not gonna do anything down here yet. I'll just threaten your queen, right? If I'm under attack, I'll ignore it and attack you. But now we just take, and look at this. The rook and bishop are both hanging. I guess you could take here. Take here. And this is like probably pretty equal, I guess. So he doesn't do any of that. He just takes. Black takes. Now he plays knight g5. He wants to fix his own. I think he is. He is trying to fix his own pawn structure here because if take, I get to repair my pawns. So check. White says no, I will not help you. Take, take. Bruzon Batista, by the way. It's a former FIDE. He's been over 2,700. He has been Super GM rated before. So Lazaro Bruzon Batista, for players who don't know him, he has been over 2,700, and credit to him, he was over 2,700, like 15 years ago, when it was a lot harder to get over 2,700. There weren't as many players in that range as there are today. So if you don't know Batista, now you know. Bruzon, victim of the Weyi game of the century, yes. Where he spent 4 minutes and 5. Yeah, I think that's the one, Richie. Take on e3, then on e2. Yeah, I think I covered that variation, right, Chris? And that should end up probably mostly equal, I guess. Meanwhile, this position is like a complete mess. A complete mess. e3 is exceptionally weak, but black's pawns are just like scattered in the wind. But I actually like this knight better than this bishop, especially if it finds some squares like really close to the I mean, it's already pretty close to the white king. Like imagine a rook going to g6 next move. And like pawn h3 and like, weak pawns like this are also like a potential dynamic strength. So what does that mean? Well, dynamic means they have energy, right? You can use them to make threats. So like a weak pawn is, yes, it's a weak pawn, it's doubled, it's isolated, but it's also can be used to like pry open the enemy king in concert with ideas like rook g6. Yeah, so this is interesting. I was wondering if he would play this. So let's see, rook takes, bishop takes. And I think this is probably a very good move. Yeah, I think white had to go for this because of those ideas I was just showing. Like if you simply retreat the queen somewhere, like pawn h3 immediately, actually you can't play it immediately because bishop g4. But like something along these lines might be very dangerous. So okay, he goes for the queen trade. I don't know why white's pausing here. You got to take. Oh wow. Okay. So white has a really powerful and dangerous passed pawn, but these black pieces are incredibly active. And the white king is probably not feeling very happy at the moment. You know, like this knight is going to land on e4, and rook f2 is actually just mate. I don't know, like, if white has a satisfactory way to deal with that. Can you show Lenderman game? Oh, look, I'm showing the Lenderman game. There you go. I think Lenderman is probably much better. Even though white has this crown jewel of the position. And not only is Lenderman potentially better on the board, but he's also way better on the clock. 13 minutes results in 48 for Lenderman. I wonder if this is a misspelling by the DGT operator, or if Alex suddenly decided to spell his name in the French style. Or if it has always been that way, for all I know. Maybe he's always spelled his name that way, but I thought I saw ER. Anybody know? Somebody correct me if I'm just way wrong. Okay. So let's see, did a wonder finish the deal? Remember, last time we checked in on this game, a wonder had sacrificed a piece. So let's see what he does. Take, take, take. Yeah, so we had to defend against the queen invasion. So now the point is, after king g8, you can just simply, that's just simply covered. So what does a wonder do? He plays, ooh, nice move, f4. Very good move. When your attack needs more juice, what do? You bring in more attackers. Maybe you should change your name to Piotr. Oh yeah, that's a good one. I like that. It's actually Petros, so it's not even Pete, but like Piotr Svidler, who is the gold standard for chess commentary in my most humble of opinions. I find him very entertaining. Rook g7. Okay, so f4 just wants to take and open the floodgates, bring in more material. King g8. Queen g4, he says, okay, I want this pawn too. Rook g7, he simply defends his pawn. You know, actually, I mean, I don't know. I feel like, okay, so he's probably got to take this with check. Can you take, and then just play like pawn f5? I feel like the sacrifice for a wonder looked really awesome, and I'm like kind of struggling to find like the knockout idea. I mean, look, you can always just start taking stuff, and it's probably good enough. Like, it's probably winning in all variations, right? Okay, so he takes here first. Bishop will take, I think. Well, hold on. Let's see. If bishop takes, this is clever. If bishop takes, does he have bishop f7? Bishop takes, bishop f7, and if rook takes, I go bishop g5, hitting the queen and threatening, like, the deadly discovery. But he can go rook take f1 and queen f8 check. So probably that's not his idea. What is his idea? Bishop takes queen e6 check. But then why include this pawn capture first? Ah, okay, this could be interesting. No, I don't like that either. I was going to say bishop takes, bishop f7, rook takes, then queen e6, because that's very painful. But bishop e3 comes with a check, so that's not good. I guess a wonder felt like mowing the lawn with his kingside pawns. Yeah. Yeah, oh, Petros is cooler? All right, well, we can fix that. Hang tight. We can fix that. We can fix that. This is a fixable problem, guys. Hang on. There you go. Look at that. Live on-stream editing. Pro skills. Okay, let's see what happened. F takes G. Oh, we don't have any new moves yet. What is his idea? So bishop g5. And the reason why I ask, what is his idea is because, look, you don't have to take this. You can take check and then try to get in f5 later. You don't have to take this, so let's try to find the idea. You guys probably already know the idea. I'm just wasting my time calculating. If you know the idea, tell me. Bishop g5, queen e6, king h8, rook f3. Okay, let's look at that. So bishop g5, queen e6, king h8. Keeping in mind, he could put the king on h7. Rook f3. I mean, I don't know. Okay, so if you take here and rook takes, then queen h6 check is on the menu. But I still have rook h7. I don't know that I'm buying this. Like, what if I mean, let's get really, really sloppy. Your move. Your move, White. Everything is hanging. Everything in the world is hanging. I don't know. Can you take g5 and survive? I go check, and then I just take your queen, right? Instead of rook f3, queen h3. Okay, queen h3 is interesting. These moves, I think it's going to be the same problem though. This is always check. So first of all, queen h3, good credit on that move, because like retreating moves are hard to assess and find as attacking moves. So like full credit for thinking creatively there. Those are actually, I'm very serious, those are hard to find. But same problem, right? I have, this is check. And then I just play like any old move. Actually, hold on, is it same problem? Is it same problem like so? Or do you have this counter check? But then I have this counter? I'm not convinced this is working for White. Your queen is hanging, and I'm just going to take that piece next move. Okay, but there's this move. If I take it, there's rook f8 check. Boy, this is a mess. Okay, let's go for that. Queen is still hanging. Bishop is hanging by a bunch of stuff. Rook is hanging. White. So my old roommate in college, I lived with two other chess players, and we'd always get to a position like this where we calculate to the end of the line where it's like looking like maybe it's hanging on by a thread, and then you get here and you say, okay, I need an exclam. I need an exclam. White needs an exclam. If White doesn't have an exclam here, White is just dead. You don't really want to be in a position where you need an exclam, because that probably means you don't have one. And if you don't have one, you're just dead in the water. Bishop g5, queen e6, bishop. Yeah, I mean that's part of the problem. I wonder if A Wonder is regretting his sack actually. Because I'm not seeing anything concrete, and he's like he's really slow getting everybody involved, and somehow like Kumar rearranged his pieces in a somewhat reasonable way. I'm gonna reload it and see if we have new moves. No, so Kumar still low on the clock and still thinking. And we don't have new moves. So I don't know. I do not know. I'm still trying to understand the idea if he simply takes. Okay, so let's see. We have another chat suggestion. Bishop g5, queen e6, king h8, bishop g5. If knight takes e5, queen h6, right. So we don't have any sneaky discovery stuff. But what if I just take back? Can I just take back? f8 is covered. I still can't play knight e5 yet because rook f8 might be painful, question mark. But I mean, I have knight d4, I'm threatening your bishop, I'm threatening mate. White needs another exclam. Bishop f3. Yeah, but if you have to play a move like bishop f3, that cuts off this move, and now I'm just going to start, I think I can start terrorizing you. Because, On this check, I have rook g8. And I'm just gonna start coming in. And I'm threatening to take with check, by the way, followed by mate. So this is not working for white. I think this is why, by the way, this is why white has been very hesitant to take this pawn. He could have taken this pawn at any juncture. White could have taken this pawn at any juncture over like the past several moves. And these variations here are showing you exactly why just because you can take something doesn't mean you should. He could have taken this at any juncture, but any moment he does unleashes these pieces which are dead at the moment. In terms of like actual use, they're currently dead. Now, you can play knight f8 if you get a chance to. Maybe black even considers that right now. I don't hate playing knight f8 right now. But these guys are dead. But the moment you take e6, they all three of them spring to life. And 4 too, because if the bishop moves, the rook is alive. So by refraining from taking the pawn, he's temporarily killing 4 pieces, at least in terms of what they can do to help the king. At least in terms of that. Yeah, Arsenal Richie, I kind of get that feeling too, like there's got to be something here somewhere, but what is it? I'm not seeing it. I don't want to cheat and turn on the engine. I want to try to see it. I'm not seeing it. H4, I don't think H4 is leading anywhere. I mean, actually it's leading somewhere very bad. All right, let's check some other games. Neiman Gorman. Whoa. Whoa. We got to go back because somebody's missing a queen. What happened here? All right, so H5, remember he's trying to get activity. B4, this is where we left the game off. And he can't, I don't think he can just take it because there's going to be this fork at the end of everybody in the world. But, okay, so he goes back. Yeah. Covering that pawn so the rook can move, building a battery, putting a little pressure. And Hans just says, I don't care, gimme. Okay, so what is the idea here? He wants bishop c3? Even bishop d4 though, right? Well, I don't get it. So he just takes. Show me the idea. Okay, hold on. He takes the rook and he says, okay, I've got 2 rooks for the queen. Oh, probably he does this just because it's winning, right? Because the king is on the run. But I mean, couldn't you also just go like, couldn't you just go that? Oh no, take and, excuse me, I'm falling asleep. Take and take, okay. So he just says, give me that, and your king is in trouble, sir. Yeah, I would have even wondered about just this directly. Does not look very pleasant. But okay, rook there, I don't see anything wrong with that. Bishop there, check. Really nice game by Hans. I mean, he just got an edge right out of the opening with some nice tempo-gaining initiative moves. Black had to eschew a pawn to try to stave off the initiative, and then it felt like black just never got a breath. He tried a tactic, but honestly, I think this is big advantage white. It's not just 2 rooks against a queen. The queen does have 2 bishops, so white has to be careful. But that king is in trouble, you know. A lot of players think that, oh, my opponent doesn't have a queen, so my king is safe, but that's not necessarily true. Here, white does not have a queen, but white does have more than enough material to cause that king all the trouble in the world. Now I'm sure Hans is looking for a knockout blow, and I'm trying to find it too. I mean, I guess on king c8 you just go check. King c8, check. And he cannot go back to d8 because you have discoveries for the queen, so he has to go here. And then you just take the bishop, because if queen takes bishop here, that's going to be mate. So I wouldn't be surprised to see a resigns here from Gorman. I would not be surprised to see a resigns here from Gorman at all. What's chat saying? Hans would say, and I laugh. Yeah. Bishop d5 is hanging, chess lover, but it is not on prise. On prise literally means able to be captured. like a piece is aiming at it and going to take it. In taking. Emprise is in taking. It's just it's unprotected, it's unguarded. So I'll just show that variation I was talking about. Check. And now king here, you lose your queen. Oops. And king here, I think maybe Dov was thinking he could capture this bishop here, but that is going to come with some technical difficulties. If you really want, you could win the queen too, just to prolong things and have a good old time. This is the troll way to go. That's the if you want to troll them. But this is probably more technically correct. All right. What's up? We have some late night chat people. This is great. I kind of thought, I knew these games were going to be interesting, but I kind of thought because it was so late, we might not have some late night chat people. Congratulations, late night chat people. You have survived Ironman 2021. All right, let's see what he did. So he takes, and black, I don't know that black had to do this. I'm not sure I like this decision. I think black had enough resources without doing this, as a matter of fact. I mean, I keep gravitating towards just like knight f8. Maybe g6 is incredibly strong, though. Maybe g6 is just incredibly strong. The thing is, white doesn't really need a knockout blow here. Because as we discussed, these pieces are so bad, the king is weak. And I mean, if all else fails, he also has like 3 passed pawns on the king side. So it's not like white needs a knockout blow or a killing blow. It does feel like there should be one, but it doesn't need there to be one. So black sacrifices back, but I'm really not sure I like this because, okay, yes, you found something to do with those pieces, but you also open some lines to your own king. I don't know. I don't know how I feel about this. Let's see. Okay, so Wonder is thinking. Wonder has not played yet. This is live position. This is live position. Okay. Okay. Where does he put the queen? Queen g3. I just want to play bishop d4 now. Queen g3. Bishop d6. Bishop f4 looks perfectly reasonable. So maybe queen g3, maybe queen e2. Just kind of keeping an eye on things. We'll come back. This is an interesting one. Because in queen and minor piece versus queen and minor piece, you usually want your minor piece to be the knight, not the bishop. But now can he finally take b2? No, he doesn't. Okay, he wants to get some action going. Yeah, because the queen and knight are such a nice combo that if you have to get stuck with a minor piece, you prefer it to be the bishop. That said, white also does not want to trade queens because then, with pawns on opposite sides of the board, the bishop might become much more powerful than the knight. So white does not want to trade queens. And it's hard to see how this queen and knight can start actually making threats. There's no like entry point to get at the black king. So I feel like Jacobian is better here, perhaps significantly so. How does black respond to knight h2? Maybe just queen g6? My idea is to prevent g4 and also just threaten that pawn. Again, remember, I want my queen and knight to attack. So let's just show very quickly. This would never happen. Jacobian would never play this, I don't think. But just like allowing these queen invasions can become painful. Now, I don't know if you should go for it right away with all your stuff hanging over here. But you know, if you can picture queen getting here, knight getting here, then we can start to see some attacking combinations. So maybe knight h2. Okay, when we haven't looked at this game for a while. Bishop d4, auto mod. Knight h2, noob move. We're gonna allow that. We're gonna allow that. Knight h2, noob move. If a commentator is making a noob move, then you're allowed to say that. What do you propose, chess lover, instead? Knight h2 in that position. We'll go back. What do you propose here? Let's see if we have a move yet. We do not. Oh! Noob move? Well, the GM agreed with my noob move. I think. I don't know if I have the live game or not. We'll refresh it just to make double sure. Yeah, GM agreed with my noob move. I wouldn't want to be white. I agree with you there. I agree with you there. I would also not want to be white. And I like your response, bishop d4. I like your response, bishop d4. Again, what we talked about earlier on the stream, if you're just joining, you know, just because your opponent makes a threat, often one of the first things you should think is, can I simply ignore their threat? And I like this move a lot. The point is, after takes, there's queen e1 check, and this is game over pretty much. I don't know if we have the right position, though. I don't know if we have. Let's see. Here's a way we can find out. We'll delete from here, and we'll let it refresh, and then it'll show us the correct position. Yeah, okay, so we didn't have the right position. He plays g3, which makes much more sense, keeping an eye on that bishop d4 move. Okay, let's go back. Oh, yep, this one is over, like we thought. Like we thought. So we'll just show that finale position. Oh, wow, it ended in the way that we thought it was going to end, or did he just resign? Let's delete from here, we'll get our moves back. Come on, connect to source and refresh. Yeah, so he just resigned here before the hammer blow. Okay. All right, we haven't talked about this game in a while. Here's where we left off, queen d7. Bishop f3, okay, sure. Knight e4. Refusing trades. Yeah, he wants to also open this bishop, so very sensible move by white. Rook c8. h3. This is not really a super threat at the moment. You still have knight e6, but it's really unpleasant, I think, already for black. And we can see, remember very early on in this game, I was talking about how this is just annoying to play against, right? Because whenever you push, you have weak pawns. You know, your pieces are kind of limited over here. This is just not really a wonderful structure for black. And I think we're beginning to see that that is true. You really need your c-pawn up here. You need your c-pawn up here. Just that simple. Yeah, this doesn't look good. This doesn't look good. So g6, again, bishop g4, there's going to be just simply f5. Knight f4. Yeah. So this is a cool idea by Timur. Once you play g6, you open up and weaken the dark squares around your king. And after knight f4, black really doesn't want to give this piece up, because if you do, this diagonal is probably, I mean, it's going to be very sensitive. That's the polite way to put it. But probably a better way to put it would be it's going to be the death of black. It's not going to be very good. So he does not take. Instead, he tries to counter the diagonal. Now he might at least think about it. So white does something about it. Yeah, that's a pretty snap take, I think. I think, yeah, first of all, I don't know if you have a choice, but second of all, you know, again, you want to kind of disconnect this pawn structure a little bit. Now, e5 is definitely coming. So d3 first. The question is, after the knight moves, will he play d4? I don't know if you want to allow black to play e5. Let's see. Let's just say, for example, I'm not saying this is a good move, but let's just say, for example, knight c5. Can you play queen f6? Probably not. G6 ugly but forced. Yeah, I agree. Ouch. Queen f6. Yeah, I was looking at queen f6. The question is, though, so the point is you can no longer play e5. Let's just show the obvious. But what if I just like do that? This pawn is still held for the moment. What if I just do that and I say next move I'm playing e5 against almost anything? Does white have a good response to this? I kind of think no. You just do that, and whatever you do, I'm playing e5. You know, probably. Yeah, I feel like I liked queen f6. It was very attractive. My 10-second analysis said it was attractive, but I don't have a good move here. I need an exclam. I don't think it works. All right, let's delete from here. Let's get the correct position in the game. Yeah, so he does. I thought he had to do this, and I think it's a good move. He does play d4. You just don't want to allow e5. So what I'm expecting is anywhere the knight moves, he'll play knight d3 and plant that knight on e5. So that begs the question, should black go here? And I kind of think the answer is yes, because now on knight d3 you can play e5 anyway, and black might be like emerging this okay, but against that move, I think white should not play knight d3. I think white should pick a rook and put it on d1. I'll just pick a rook. Yeah, I'll pick this rook. Because now on e5, again, you're going to have the problem on d5. So against knight d7 will be met by rook d1. And knight anywhere else, I think, will be met by knight d3. Just finding the very nice e5 square. So yeah, I think Timur he knows what he's going to do against both reactions here. All right, I'm going to go back to the A Wonder game. Let's make sure we have the right position. So we'll let the system update. Yeah, we have the right position. Okay. I feel like white is much better here, but I don't know where he's going to play. And bishop d4, is it playable? Does that knight have a jump? Does that knight have a jump somewhere? If it does not have a jump, so part of the point is if it gets like lazy and just jumps somewhere like that, I think that move is curtains. If you take, of course, I'm very happy, and if you move, I get to take the rook with check, and if you move, I get to come to the H file with check. So maybe bishop d4 here. We'll let the system refresh again, see if A Wonder has played a move yet. Yeah, he hasn't yet. Maybe bishop d4. Bishop d4 is very attractive to me. And I don't see any immediate reason why it's not working. Okay. Chad is just chilling at the moment. What game haven't we checked in on? Oh wow, okay, so we were talking earlier about how white really does not want the queen trade, which I think remains true. He might just view this as a necessity because of the action over here. Although the next question is, okay, white doesn't really necessarily want the queen trade, but although is white really in trouble if the queen trade happens? And the reason I say that is These pawns are on dark squares, which is the same color as the bishop, which is really not ideal. The bishop can never touch these pawns. So, and at the same time, sometimes the bishop is just going to get stuck on guard duty. For example, if the white knight comes to attack those pawns. So actually, this might just be carefully evaluating that, saying, actually, I do want the queen trade. Notice he offers the queen trade as soon as the move a5 is on the board. Now he offers the queen trade, and he's got that target. Maybe he's thinking I can make the bishop passive, and I'll come out of this all right. Uh-oh, did we lose it? Did we lose our stream? Testing 1, 2, 3. I might have lost interwebs. I hope not. Volume low. Screen is fine. Okay. You guys can still hear me? You guys are good? Let me know. I lost my chat. Now it's good? Okay. I lost my chat, but I lost it on like my auxiliary computer where I was watching it. So the computer I'm streaming on, if you can still hear and see me, let me know. And I'm not going to worry about the chat over there. Okay, cool. So it must just be this computer. That's unfortunate. I liked watching the chat at the same time as I was chatting with you guys. Try to get that back up. Yeah, so this might just be perfectly okay. I'm going to delete from here, and let's let it refresh and see if he did trade queens. Okay, so we did have a decision. He did go for it, which is interesting. Because, again, that knight is going to land on c4. I'm going to get my chat computer back up. No, don't auto-capitalize that. Yeah, he goes immediately to defend the pawn. He knows what's coming, so he just says, let me go do it. Come on, chat computer. I think we're back alive on the chat computer. We are. Maybe white is totally fine here. So the first ever live stream that I did at one of our national events was the 2018 US Open from Wisconsin. And my co-host during that event was National Master William Aramel, who also commented earlier this week on the invitational tournaments. Hopefully you guys were around and watched him. Will is very knowledgeable. We came up with this fun game called Evaluation Station, where we would first make a guess as to what the engine evaluation would be, and only then would we turn on the engine and see what it said. So I'm going to play some solo Evaluation Station right now, but you guys are welcome to put your guesses in the chat also to tell me what you think the engine evaluation might be of this position. I got to think before I make my guess. The isolated pawn is bad, but this pawn on a5 is a serious liability. You cannot lose it, because then the pawn on a4 protected passed pawn. King situation. I mean, it kind of feels like maybe the black king is slightly better. It's a little closer to the center. You can play f5. Maybe you should play f5 right now. King f6, pawn e5, king e6. And then king d5. This king can get to e3, but it can be also be checked away. All right, do we have any guesses in the chat? Plus 1.5 for white. I don't think it's that much for either color. I'm just gonna give you guys a little help. I don't think it's that much for either color. I think this is somewhere between plus 0.3 and minus 0.3, and I'm just trying to decide which color I would rather be. I mean, the thing is, both colors have some things to play for. Like white has this pawn, and he's getting all his pawns on white squares, which is very good technique. We just talked about why that's important. The bishop can't touch them. The bishop sometimes gets passive playing defense. Yeah, so black is desperately trying to not get all his pawns stuck on the wrong color. Knight e5, bishop c7, knight c4, pawn takes pawn, knight e3, pawn g3. Knight e5, bishop c7, knight c4, pawn takes pawn, king g2, king g6, knight e3, king h5, you defend the pawn. So we cannot go crazy here for white. I'm gonna actually go minus 0.2 in favor of black. I'm going to go minus 0.2 in favor of black. All right, I'm going to turn the engine on now. Let's see where we're at. I'm letting it think. I'm letting it think. Let me see if I can do this. I'm going to see if I can show you guys the engine score. Because sometimes, sometimes you just feel like you're God mode. Look at that. What did I say? I said minus 0.2 for black. Come on. I did not have it on. I did not have it on. Where's my confetti and applause and trip to Disney World? I'm going to turn it back off. When you study chess and you work with engines a lot, you kind of just have a feel sometimes for how they're going to look at a position, or like, you can kind of just almost feel the sway of the position. Computer doesn't understand these positions. I agree with you, chess lover. They really don't. It's just a game for fun. You really shouldn't analyze with the computer. Like I said, this is just a game, evaluation station. We thought it was cool. It rhymed. It's just a game for fun to kind of have a little, have a little chat game, let you guys get in on it too. Yeah, Will and I played that a lot. It was a good time. What's the response to knight d4? Ah, good question. So I think he just goes king f6, guarding the two pawns. You can play knight c6, but bishop c7, and your knight has taken a long magical journey to nowhere. So I don't think this is good play for white. I really don't. F5. What did he do? So let's go back. Let's get our refresh here. Delete from there. Make sure we got the refresh. Yeah, you don't want to get your knight in trouble. You do not want to get that knight in trouble. Okay. Yeah. So F5. He's thinking. What I would be thinking about if I were fed is I would be thinking about, can I allow pawn takes pawn? So here's a line that I prefer. If we're going to play knight d4, the idea that I want to play knight d4 with is I want to then just play something like f3 so that I can get all my pawns on white squares. The problem is, maybe it's not a problem. You cannot play king e5 because there's this check. And we have, oops. Although actually, even there, I wonder if I can play something like this and just go for it. But probably I'm too slow. Yeah, I'm definitely too slow. So that would be an idea of playing knight d4. But if I'm white here, what I'm thinking about is, can I just let him take this pawn? So something like this position. Now I want to go knight e3 and recapture my pawn immediately. But there's pawn g3, and he gets to trade it off. I'll just show that really quickly. And black is up a pawn for nothing. So my idea was to play king g2, preventing that, threatening knight e3. Now the king cannot come this path to guard the pawn, because my knight covers this square. Although even in this position, actually, oops, I didn't mean to do that. Even in this position, maybe black just gives the pawn back and ruins my queen side, and I feel like a complete idiot. So I think you actually want to keep control over the square. If black were to go for h5, Here I would actually feel a little better because that king is really out of play. And I would think, like, maybe I can do something here, you know? Maybe I can come up with some idea. Maybe even d4. Bishop b6, though, so not d4. So what I'm thinking about is white. Basically, to rephrase this, what I'm thinking about with white is there any way that I can avoid playing g takes f5? Because I don't want to do that. You know, these pawns together become very good. It looks like he did decide he had to do that. He probably didn't want to do that, but he may have decided he had to do that. Yeah, so I just refreshed it. This is the current position. He did take the pawn, and probably he just did it out of necessity, I think. But you really, really, really don't want to. You know, the further spaced out the pawn structures become, the more powerful the bishop is. And now white has two isolated pawns. So this was not, white was not thrilled with having to make this decision. Let's check in. Oh, wow, okay, so let's see what he did. Let's see how we got here. Probably had to agree, yeah. Okay, so I just want to cover that one thing that Arsenal fan talked about before we come back to this. You don't want to get your knight in a position where it can be easily pushed around. So right now, the knight is actually pretty useful. It's stopping like the king from coming in, and it has like a circuit where it can get to very good places. But so this square is a very loose square, and what I mean by loose is that it can easily be attacked. So let's say now white realizes that he has to make that same trade that he did in the game. The knight can very easily be attacked in this square. And it's not really controlling the bishop at all. The bishop is just going to calmly sit there and wait for the reinforcements to arrive. And then the knight is going to feel really misplaced, I think. Okay, so we're back at the game position here. And so hopefully that explains that a little more in depth. Yeah, so now he goes knight d4. Now he goes knight d4, and this is interesting because, I mean, king f6 is forced. And then does he want to go, no, he doesn't want to go f4, even g4 is good enough. So I'm very curious about what his idea is with this move, I'll be very honest. Maybe he's just getting away from g4, hitting the knight with tempo. That would make sense, actually. And maybe the king sits on g2 and the knight sits on b5 in some variations, although I don't really like that either. All right, let's go to a wonders game. I want to see what a wonder got here. So remember, black sacrificed back, white sacrificed first, black sacrifices back to try to get his pieces near the king and in the game. A wonder sidesteps with queen f4. And now he goes queen h4, which is interesting. I was thinking about bishop d4. So this is a nice little dance, right? If you go queen h4 right away, the bishop is on you. But by getting that bishop to d6, now you go queen h4, the bishop is not on you. Rook f6. Okay, maybe he has some ideas here. That's actually kind of nasty. I'm still waiting for these pieces to welcome themselves to the game. The knight was never trapped. No, I'm not saying the knight was ever trapped. I'm just saying it's loose, right? It's uncomfortable. It doesn't like being on that square. It's not performing a critical function. Because in the other position, it was keeping the black king from invading and kind of near the pawn action. But over there, it was just a target for the king to walk over and attack it. Had a really no feeling. What would he have 6? Yeah, I think you're right. So again, I can try to explain that position again if you guys want to go back. What's it doing here? It's attacking a pawn, but I can guard that pawn from 2 squares very comfortably. And in the meantime, right, my king wants to go here. If you pick up the black king right now and put it on c3, I'm winning. I'm just winning. And what this knight has done is it's allowed my king to go on that journey while gaining a tempo of hitting this knight. So I'm not quite sure what its function is. It's not getting trapped. I didn't mean to represent that it was getting trapped. I just don't think it's very useful there. And in fact, I would argue it's doing more harm than good because of that invasion path. If you pick this king up and put it here, right now, this second, the game's over. And we can just kind of see, like, if white just plays like quote-unquote normal moves, by the time this king, gets anywhere useful, the knight is already under attack. Now, you can maybe go knight e7 check. This will be fun to calculate. These type of positions are where the bishop really shines. So let's see. Check, I give you the pawn. Now, do I want to go straight for this one, or do I want to take this one? I think I want to take this one. And these are dead. The bishop will sacrifice itself for the f-pawn whenever the f-pawn becomes too dangerous. And then my king will just take these two and march home to glory. So that knight on c6, it has nothing to do with the knight getting trapped. It has to do with, is it performing a useful function? And in fact, my argument is that not only is it not particularly useful, but it's in fact helping the enemy, because it can just be attacked and allow the king to come in. And in fact, maybe you can even go, at knight e7, we looked at that, right? Knight e7, you can even take that pawn with check, but no, I think this position is just completely won for black, because this pawn is not in any serious danger. Even if you manage to win that pawn, my bishop will sack for f2, my king will gobble these, and my king will easily shepherd these home to become a queen while you're messing around over here trying to get this guy in. These pawns are dead. So that was my point. That was my point. The knight is never getting trapped, but getting trapped is not its only concern in that position. So let's get caught back up. We got to do a lot of deleting from here and then get caught back up to the game position. Okay, this should get us caught back up. Wow. How did we get here? Let's see. So this is the game position, I think. Knight d4, king f6. Yeah, now notice the difference. So remember the knight on c6, the problem that we demonstrated with that. So notice that GM John Fedorovich, and he is a GM, he should have his GM title here. He's sort of doing the opposite. He's putting the knight in a place where it cannot be harassed by the king. And the function it's performing is it's keeping the enemy king out of these dark squares. It's just creating a wall whereby the king cannot cross through to go after the weak pawns. And it cannot be touched here, whereas on c6 it could easily be threatened. Here it cannot easily be threatened. And that's a big difference. It's a big difference. I think I think white realizes he's a little bit worse in this position, and so he's just trying to set up a defensive hold, if you will. So g4, f3, he wants to trade. When you're the defending side, trade pawns. When you're losing, trade pawns. When you're winning, trade pieces, right? Yeah, and he just goes king up. This is actually very difficult for white to hold. I think white's in a lot of trouble now. I think if we play that same evaluation station, now I would probably be more on the minus 1.5 side of things. I think something went wrong here for white. Let's play it together this time. I'm going to stretch the screen here. We'll play evaluation station together. You can see my engine is currently off. All right, you guys ready? Let's play some evaluation station. I'm actually going to go with 1.4 minus 1.4, so 1.4 in favor of black, which means I think black is just winning, because if it's 1.4 in an endgame, it's probably pretty close to winning. So let's see. Maybe I'm way off, but let's see. Oh, wow, I'm just completely wrong. I got it wrong. Black is still slightly better, but only slightly. But there were only two moves to defend, and white found one of them, to his credit. He had to play f4. And now again, you can see this wall here, right? This wall is just keeping the enemy king out. And I think as long as he can maintain that wall, he'll be okay. Keep the king out, and the pawns are untouchable. So I guess he just goes king g2, king g3, right? King g2, king g3. Maybe if he goes king g2, black wants to try to sack and get these home, but I do not believe that is going to work at all. So he just goes king g2, king g3, and I think it's a fortress, and that's why we're seeing double zeros. Black has no entry point. Black has no entry point. Yeah, I think he had to trade that pawn on g4, Richie. I don't think he had a choice. I think he had to. Yeah, they call Sergei Karyakin the Minister of Defense. But the Fed is the Fed. A wonder. Oh, I should turn the engine back off and we'll get rid of that. I never like to analyze with the engine on. Only when we're having a fun game like Evaluation Station. There we go. Wonder. Yeah, so he went for what we thought he was going to go for. Just making a party on the H file. But again, there's still no finishing blow. You know, to Kumar's credit, he has posed some problems. I don't know if I would go so far as to say he has defended very well, but he has posed enough problems to keep the game going. So I'm going to look up Kumar. Let's see where he's at. Let's see where he's at rating-wise. Yeah, it was a Federal Reserve joke. You can't mess with him, right? You can't mess with the Fed. You can't mess with the Fed. Kumar, R. Really useful site if you're a US Chess member and you want to look up somebody's rating, see their history. Just go here, and you can find them. Of course, it helps if you type their name in properly. So Kumar is a 2354 rated over-the-board player. He's a very strong player, playing in his home state. Let's see how he does. Oh, we have a decisive result up here, so let's see how Timur finished this off. Right, we left it off right here, where I said, right, yeah, you got to deal with this. You got to deal with this. So he deals with it. And there we go. Very early on, we talked about how this pawn was such a liability. He just brings some pieces over and aims at it. So black tries to free himself. As discussed, whenever you push that pawn, we're taking. Just a snap take, auto take. You can pre-move. Like if this were an online game, every move, you just pre-move. You just pre-move that. If this were an online game, you could pre-move that every single move. C5, take, bishop here. Okay, controlling some squares. Maybe he wants to do that to challenge the file. Okay. Yeah, as expected. Just saying, do something else on the C file, please. Takes. Not seeing the knockout yet. So this ended very swiftly. There must have been like a blunder. Okay, and look, this is actually, it's interesting. We have the Fed game, which was queen and knight versus queen and bishop, and I made the comment about how if it's queen plus minor piece versus queen plus minor piece, you want to have the knight because of attacking chances. Now, this is the type of position where that is 100% true. In Fed's game, and it does look like he's going to hold it, in Fed's game, he never really was able to get any attacking chances going with his queen and knight, and so he ultimately decided to just trade the queens off. But look at the difference here. In Gareyev's game, let's get back to that moment. In Gareyev's game, the queen and knight are very well primed to attack. I mean, already we can see some really nice squares that the knight can get to. The queen has the open file, and look at this move. Boom. Really nice move. Actually, is this just resigns? Because he's softening him up. You can't even guard that pawn, right? If you take, it's lights out. And no piece can guard that pawn. So the queen and knight attacking, this is just lights out. I mean, it's probably resigns already for black. He plays on a little bit, but it's pretty much over. Yeah, you can take with knight or queen. I mean, taking with queen certainly looked attractive too, but nice move by Timur. He's very patient. He just says, okay, what are you going to do about that? Yeah, this is just resigns. Queen g6. There goes e6. Yeah, everything falls. Wow. Very swift finish. Queen and knight versus queen and bishop. You usually want the queen and knight. Like 95% of the time, maybe higher. You want the queen and knight because they can attack. And when you have little jabs like this, I mean, h5, just the whole house falls down, like out of nowhere. Really nice, yeah. Exactly. Yeah, that is a brutal, brutal move. Such a simple move, right? It's so easy to see. It's so simple, but it's also like so very like just gentle almost, right? You just casually push your H pawn and the game's over. Very, very quick and deadly finish. Yeah, so with, he's having to think here. I wonder with like 11, 12 minutes when he started the move. Let's see. 15 minutes when he started the move. He's having a think here, trying to figure out how to finish this off. And I think the Fed is holding this. He's doing it exactly the way I thought. You just king goes back and forth between whatever black plays, king goes back and forth between these three squares, and I don't think you can do anything. I don't think you can do anything at all. Just, when the king is over here, you don't even have to go back and forth on these three. The only danger is when the king tries to get back in via h4. Then you need to be able to stop that. But like you could just go to any of these squares right now. I think it's just dead draw. I don't think it even matters which one you pick. So I'm predicting Fed will hold this. So that means our last interesting game of the day is Wonder versus Aravind. Bishop takes f4. Where were we there? Oops, that's the wrong game. Yeah, I mean, this sacrifice it's always going to be on the table, right? You always have to be careful. So let's just show the idea. If you take and the king's going to try to come in, and it's just going to be a race, right? Like, can I go decimate those pawns like quickly enough? But I kind of think the answer is no. Like, let's say I play king g3. Oh no, maybe you can't. Hold on. We got to actually really calculate this. I'm trying to think about, can I get my knight to c5 when you go and attack the pawns? So like knight down check, I think you need to take, because otherwise that guy runs. King g3, king attacks pawn, knight c5. And I think white is winning this, right? Because if that pawn falls, this guy runs. I don't know if you're fast enough over here. I don't think it works. I don't think it works for black. I think white holds that. Probably, maybe even wins that. I don't think bishop f4 is working. Let's get it reloaded, see what the game position is. Yeah, I don't think it's really. Richie, you're dead spot on. That's what black is going to try to make work. Black is going to dance around and poke around and hope he can make that work. But I don't know if it ever will. That's what he's going to try to do. That's the only winning idea. There's no other breakthrough. You can't break through over here. If you push this pawn, it actually is just going to get gobbled up. So there's no breakthrough anywhere. You got to try to make this work. If it doesn't work, then the game is a draw. If black can ever dance around and walk around until he finds a way to make it work, then black wins. So from that perspective, it's pretty straightforward. But obviously, it's there's going to be some moves. Jacobian on 29 seconds too. I should mention, not so fast king e3 when you had knight on a5. Yeah, we'll go back and look at that. I definitely think that's an idea, is to come back to these pawns at the right moment. That's why I was a little worried about this idea. The king can't wander too far though, because then there might be some ideas. Yeah, so now he's just going to come back. The time control for this section, remember the main section has a 30-second increment. This section does not. This section only has a 5-second delay. So Jacobian is not getting any more time added to his clock. He's playing on a delay the rest of the game. And because of that, and because of the fact that he's on 22 seconds, I'm expecting king here, draw. We'll stay with this game because I think it's about to end. And Wochess, I do think you're right. That's what I was worried about, that holding plan, because if you go and try and take this, then the king comes back and supports the pawns, and maybe it's not so simple. But I do think that white has enough resources there to the point where the bishop takes f4 is not going to work. It's kind of a gut feeling, but I do think he does. I think this is now a draw. I think this is going to be draw agreed. If he goes back, I think it's even threefold already, right? King f1, king e1, king f1, king e1. Yeah, if he just goes back, it's threefold. Well, yeah, so king e5, this means that draw has been agreed. Because when the game ends and there's a draw, they put the kings in the center on the DGT boards. So I think we'll see this updated over here with 1/2, 1/2 very soon. In the meantime, what happened here? What happened here? I much prefer delay. Time management still means something. I certainly can see that viewpoint, Richie. I personally much prefer increment, and increment time management also still means something. The difference is if you have just a completely one position, you have the increment to finish it off. But like tense fighting positions that both sides get down to the increment, time management absolutely means something, arguably even more in some cases. Is this going to be a draw? Is a wonder having to accept a draw here because he can't block the check? What happened in this game? We got to look at this game. So he goes knight h4. He cannot take it because it's simply mate. And he also cannot, I guess he can guard it again with king f7, but then rook f1 check is game over. So knight h4, very strong move by a wonder. Did his opponent just miss it? He goes knight f3, he goes rook f8. I think his opponent just missed it. But maybe not because, okay, so he's threatening mate in one. And maybe now he just correctly calculated that he has all these checks and you can't get out of all the checks. It's just a draw. How do you get out of the checks? Because the point is, so let's just show why. If you use the knight to block, then the knight is no longer guarding this rook. And a wonder can recapture the rook. And actually he's winning. Sorry, not a wonder, Aravind. Aravind is actually just winning. Whoa, what happened here? This can't be right. Yeah, okay. This is just, yeah, there, it went to 1/2, 1/2. Yeah. I was going to say, that can't be right. So actually, is this just maybe a draw? Because if you block, you lose the rook. Let's see if we can get the game position. I'm going to delete from here. We'll try to get the game position back. This might be a draw too, guys. What a remarkable save. It looked like Aravind was just getting annihilated out of the opening. Just getting annihilated, but a wonder's sack never really came home all the way. King g2, king h3. Let's see. So king g2, check, king h3. Oh, is there a different check? We should first look and see. Oh, no. Oh, no, look at this. Is this... Yeah, you can't go king g2. Maybe he was counting on king g2 and he forgot about his other rook. And let's just show the point. The point is the queen all the way from a1 covers this. So there's not going to be any fancy stuff down here because you'll just take with the queen. So hold on. Did a wonder just give a draw? Did a wonder just let's let it update. I'm gonna let the move list update. Did he go for this? He went for this. This is the live position. Did he miss this? Is he losing now? Or is there some tactic that Queen f1, Rook f7? Is he just suddenly losing? I got to make sure that we have the right position here, guys, because this is a remarkable turn of events if this is actually happening on the board. Just a remarkable turn of events. Let's find that game. This is actually happening. This is the correct position. So I think what this means is just a wonder really does not want to draw. So he's just going for it. He says, okay, you know what, buddy? You got 4 seconds. Your king is really shaky. Prove it. The problem is this knight cannot currently move. Oh, this is, I think A Wonder just lost the game, guys. I think he tried to get out of it and it's just lost. If the knight moves, queen f5 forces a queen trade. And if he does nothing, queen f1 check, knight g2 forced, and then queen f5 forces a queen trade. And these pawns are all just running with the rook. A Wonder, this is just dead lost for white. Can Kumar finish it on 4 seconds? The position is dead lost for white, I think. But can he finish it on 4 seconds is a different story. This is a remarkable way to end the night. What a crazy game to finish on. What a crazy game to finish on. Okay, we gotta figure this out here. Actually, there's nothing to figure out. This is just over. We gotta just see if Aravind can actually pull it off. How's Linderman doing? Let's see. I got the rounds. I got that up here. Whoa. Linderman. Well, he has a time advantage and he has 2 rooks versus queen. This should be winning for Linderman, I think. I mean, there's always perpetual risk, right? Like if you have to go here, there's always like some maybe crazy checks perpetual, but 2 rooks versus queen, the rooks can pick off all the pawns, and this should just be winning for Linderman, I think. I gotta see this. Okay, so let's see what he does. Very, very good practical decision. He says, I'm not gonna let you trade queens no matter what. So there's the check. If the king comes up, queen c4, we trade queens anyway. So he has to play knight g2. But then simply rook f7 is like mating, no? I mean, he doesn't have to play knight f2. He has to either play knight g2 or acquiesce to the queen trade. I do not see Kumar's clock anymore. I wonder if he simply flagged. No, A Wonder resigned. Look at that, 1-0. A Wonder resigned. He recognized if he comes up queen c4, this endgame is absolutely hopeless. I don't think the knight can't even stop the c-pawn. Knight f3, rook take c2, king down. Yes, you can't just take it, but it's hopeless. It's hopeless regardless. Wow, he lost that game, guys. He was in such command the whole time and he lost it. I'm like in shock. I'm in shock at this result. I am just in shock at this result. What a crazy way to finish the night. Wow. Is he in the lead? So let's get the standings. Here's the standings. This link has everything. Yeah, right, Akash? Who would have thought? Who would have thought? Akash, it's not just g5, h5. g5, h5, f6. Winning by force. If you click that link, there's a link there where you can see the results and standings and pairings and everything. I just cannot believe that happened. I mean, this was just like white is killing him, white is killing him, white is killing him, white is killing him. And then all of a sudden, like it feels like here is where white started to go wrong. Like just, bring a piece into the game. I also really liked bishop d4 in this position. Let's see if the engine agrees with me. Engine does not agree with me. Oops. There's just queen takes g5. That's a problem. But engine does agree with me on queen g3, which was the move I suggested. It's always easier when you have Stockfish as your friend. Wow, I don't know where he went wrong. I mean, I feel like this might have been the culprit. Let's see. Let's see what the engine thinks. Yeah. Okay, rook f6 plus 3. Knight d2 also plus 3. Knight c3 plus 2.5. Yeah, knight d2 now plus 4. That's the move that I liked. Wow, I can't believe this game, guys. I cannot believe this game. I mean, Kumar manages, not only does he win, but he manages to find the winning combination. So here A Wonder needs to just accept the draw. He needs to just go accept the draw. But not only does Kumar win, but he finds the winning combination, or the winning idea, I should say. It's less of a combination. with like 11 seconds on his clock. 31, rook takes g6. Oh, so this just doesn't work at all, huh? This whole idea. Wait, 31. Yeah, so here. Queen f2, g3, queen e3. Knight takes g6, winning on the spot, huh? Yeah, I'd buy that. What do you do about that threat? That looks pretty bad. And unlike the game, the king can actually hide, I think, like all the way up the board here. There's a couple of different hiding spots for the king. Wow. Wow, this position, so if he just takes with the knight, it's plus 14 in the engine, and I believe it because, like, what do you do? Like, what do you do about this threat? More importantly, the king suddenly has, like, an escape route, right? But by taking with the rook, it's just perpetual check. You have to accept the perpetual now. Anything other than accepting the perpetual, white loses. Wow. Wow, guys. That's a pretty shocking finish to the round, I have to say. That's pretty shocking. Okay. I do not know if we will be back on tomorrow during the day. We might be for the 4-day. We'll see. But I do know for sure that U.S. Open coverage will continue tomorrow night at 7 p.m. We have International Master Kostya Kavutskiy and Women's Grandmaster Katerina Nemtsova will both be on tomorrow night, 7 p.m. Eastern Time, U.S. Tune back in then. Watch some games, listen to their expert commentary, enjoy the show. And there will be shows at 7 p.m. every night, 7 p.m. tomorrow night, 7 p.m. Saturday night, and 7 p.m. Sunday night. Nope, excuse me. 3 p.m. Sunday afternoon for the final round. Kostya and Katerina will take you all the rest of the way. I might be back on tomorrow during the daytime, sort of depends on the other activities and festivities we have here at the Open. But this was a lot of fun. I hope you guys had fun. What a crazy finish to tonight. Thanks for watching. Give us a like, give us a follow, whatever you do on Twitch. Do that for us. We are a National Federation nonprofit organization promoting chess and doing good things for chess players. So help us out. Tell your friends about the show, and I'll catch you hopefully tomorrow. Thanks for watching.